Every single year, the global chocolate industry generates roughly $130 billion in revenue. But to trace how it got to your local grocery store, you have to go back 3,000 years, deep into the humid rainforests of Mesoamerica. Roughly 1,500 years before the Common Era, a civilization known as the Olmec thrived along the Gulf of Mexico. They figured out that if you crack open the fruit of wild cacao trees, extract the bitter seeds, ferment the pulp, and then roast them, you create a complex flavor profile unlike anything else found in nature. By learning to manipulate a harsh, natural seed into a foamy drink, the Olmec set off a chain reaction of human obsession that would cross oceans and outlast empires. The knowledge passed to the Maya, who wove the drink into the center of their culture. According to their sacred text, the Popol Vuh, the gods used cacao as a primary ingredient when creating human beings. This diagram shows the purchasing power of chocolate in the 1400s. By the time the Aztec Empire dominated central Mexico, cacao beans functioned as the primary currency of the region. 100 beans bought a turkey, and 1,000 bought an enslaved person. The high-altitude climate around the Aztec capital of Tenochtitlan couldn't support cacao trees, so the empire conquered neighboring tropical regions, demanding massive quantities of the beans as annual tribute. They brewed it into a thick, spicy mixture called exocolatl, or bitter water. Priests used it in ceremonies, and warriors drank it for vitality before battle or facing the sacrificial altar. Long before a European ever tasted it, chocolate was already a mechanism of imperial wealth, a pillar of the economy, and a divine elixir. When Hernán Cortés arrived in 1519, the Aztec court offered his men cups of exocolatl. The Spanish initially hated the bitter liquid, with some accounts describing it as a drink fit for pigs. But soon, Spanish nuns in colonial convents began experimenting. They heated the liquid and folded in sugar and cinnamon, creating a different, sweet flavor profile. This warm, sweet version became a sensation among the wealthy. The Spanish aristocracy kept the recipe a secret for nearly a century before it spread, eventually leading to the rise of exclusive chocolate houses in 17th century London. As chocolate moved into European courts, its Mesoamerican ritual purpose was replaced by its value as a status symbol and a luxury for the aristocracy. Producing drinkable chocolate from raw beans remained labor-intensive for centuries. The resulting paste was difficult to dissolve and left a greasy texture, keeping it out of reach for the working class for almost 3,000 years. Look at this schematic of a hydraulic press. In 1828, Dutch chemist Conrad van Houten used a device like this to crush roasted beans, squeezing the natural fat, cocoa butter, out. What remained was a dry cocoa powder that dissolved easily in water. In 1847, the British firm J.S. Fry & Sons realized something. By mixing that dry powder back together with melted cocoa butter and sugar, they created a paste that hardened into a solid bar. Swiss makers refined the process even further. Daniel Peter incorporated condensed milk to create milk chocolate, and Rodolphe Lindt developed conching, an extended mixing process that gave the product its velvety texture. Within a single lifetime, human engineering changed the physical state of chocolate, turning a gritty drink into a stable, mass-producible solid. By the early 1900s, Milton Snavely Hershey realized the path to growth depended on volume. He focused on making solid chocolate cheap enough that every person in America could afford to buy it. During World War II, the United States military commissioned Hershey to produce a specialized survival ration. They manufactured over 3 billion D-ration bars, engineered specifically for high caloric energy. As American troops moved through Europe in the Pacific, they handed out these rations to local children and civilians, introducing an entire generation to the taste of the modern chocolate bar. Industrial scaling and wartime distribution turned chocolate from a rare luxury into an affordable, everyday staple, available in virtually every corner of the world. Today, sustaining that demand requires an interglobal logistical network that touches every continent to support the $130 billion market. The raw material is concentrated in one region. Roughly 70% of the world's cacao is grown in West Africa, primarily by smallholder farmers working plots of land smaller than 5 acres. The industry depends on an agricultural labor force that includes over 1 million children working in hazardous conditions, using machetes and handling heavy loads to harvest the pods. A product designed to bring universal joy depends on an agricultural system where the people doing the work often cannot afford to buy the finished good. The supply chain faces new pressure. Cacao trees only survive in a narrow, high-humidity equatorial band, and rising temperatures are shrinking the areas where they can thrive. In response, a modern bean-to-bar movement has emerged. Small makers are paying farmers higher prices and treating chocolate like fine wine, showcasing how specific soil and fermentation, the terroir, creates hundreds of distinct flavors. As this animation demonstrates, cacao contains a specific chemical cocktail that triggers multiple pleasure pathways in the human brain simultaneously. Our neurology is specifically wired to respond to these compounds. So the next time you snap off a piece of a chocolate bar, consider the layers of history inside it. You are experiencing the results of 3,000 years of human desire, imperial ambition, and chemical engineering.